Halito class, Chumachukma. Thank you for joining us this morning. Erin says she's going to be unresponsive today. Okay, Erin, this is for you. The question came about asking about the word for cornmeal and how you saw that tanch and tosh were spelled differently in the book and in the dictionary. And the writer of the book chooses to use the spelling that she chooses. It's not that it's going to be agreeable among the speakers or the other writers or Byington. And as I've said before, I tend to revert back to Byington's way of teaching the language, because he is the one who gave us a written language. And sometimes I don't agree with his spellings as far as the double consonants and that kind of thing, but that's easy enough to get over. But sometimes when other people take the language and write it to make it their own, it may not be the consensus of the speakers. It may not be, I think of it as someone wanting to put something in writing so they can have a name, they can put their name to it. That wasn't Byington's intention, so I still revert back to his way of writing or teaching the language. So, having said all of that, I still didn't answer your question. When you have the time, you might can ask me again, and you'll be able to jot these down. But the question was about TANSH and TANCH. So I've looked at the dictionary and the textbook, and what you find in the textbook is different from what's in the dictionary. And again, because Byington, the originator of the written Choctaw language, is the one who gave us the dictionary. But also the people who took his manuscript to make it their own so they could put their name on the work also had misspellings. Again, they had their own ideas. Not being speakers, it was difficult for them to understand that this is not how it should be written. But again, people take somebody else's work and so they can have a name. So in the dictionary, you have TANCH on page 342. Again, if you're not able to write this down, then get back with me sometime. On page 342 in the dictionary, you're going to see TANCH. I've just written down some of the words, not all of them. Tanch afotoha is a corn meal. And on the very next page, on page 343, you're going to see the same definition under Tash, T-A. It has a superscript N-S-H. Afotoha is a cornmeal. So you have both written in the dictionary, TANCH and T underline A-S-H. You have Tanch and Tosh, both in the dictionary, 342 and 343. And just to show the similarities, definition, on page 342, you're also going to find Tanch Api. Tanch, T-A-N-C-H, Api. And on the next page, you're going to see T underline A-S-H, Api. And on Tanch Api, it's going to tell you that it means a cob or a corn cob. On Tash Api, it's going to tell you it means a corn stalk or a cob. So here again, these, to me, there were times when we used the TANCH, and there were times when we used the T nasal A-S-H. And this is what I was getting at when I said this is how I had spoken it when I was growing up. And the word on page 342 that's going to give you the word for cornmeal is tanchi poshi. This is on page 342. Tanchi poshi is that's going to, this means cornmeal. On the following page on 343, you're going to find tanch fotoha as cornmeal. But also I want you to look at the word for tanchi poshi as cornmeal. Poshi which is found on page 321, is going to tell you that this means pulverized, powdered. In order for something to be a meal, to me, it has a coarse texture. This is why that's why I guess it wasn't until I started teaching the language classes that I was really understanding why we said things the way we did. Tash fotoha is a meal. Fotoha means to grind. And when you grind something, you make it into a meal before you pulverize it. So at that stopping point where it's going to be a coarse type of texture is what we use for the meal, cornmeal, tash fotoha. Tash fotoha. And like I said, on page 342, you have tanchi pushi as cornmeal. But understand that pushi means to be pulverized. Okay. And I hope this clarifies why you're going to see T-A-E-N-C-H and T nasal A-S-H. And sometimes what you see in the textbook is not the only thing. This is not the only definition. This is not the only spelling. This is why those things that I do have knowledge of, I will bring them to your attention, or if you have a question about something, then I will try to find those answers and bring them to you. Okay, holisa hoshina pakoli tuchina akucha chakali Ikhʋnapisa. Holisa hoshina pakoli chakali. Excuse me. Been doing that all morning. I hope it's not something that I'm going to come down with later. Holisa hoshina pakoli tuchina akucha chakali. Keep it. Excuse me. Under Ikhʋnapisa, we're going to read through this, and I'm going to repeat each line twice, giving you the opportunity to read along. Alatik and Ishki are the speakers. Begin speaking. Ilimpa ishoponiho. Ilimpa ishoponiho. Kio onoshbuta hoyole. Kio onoshbuta hoyole. Palaska champule pascale. Palaska champule pascale. Pilashash hapi champule micha onoshputa ish chompatokon. Pilashash hapi champule micha onoshputa ish chompatokon. Ai tatoba ialituk. Ai tatoba ialituk. Akankoshi ish chompatokon. Akankoshi ish chompatokon. Kiyo satatiash chinki at akankoshi lawa chompatuk. Kiyo satatiash chinki at chompatuk. Achukma ampu achifalituk. Achukma ampu achifalituk. Yakuki himonasi palaska champule uponit tahlili. Yakuki himonasi palaska champule uponit tahlili. How was your reading? How's your reading? Okay, I have heard from 3 of you. I'm hoping the other two can respond. Under agreement markers and pronouns on page 39, we're not going to pick that up just yet. What I want to do is look on page 41. I want to look on page 41 where it says the agent person markers. Understand that these are pronouns. I want you to understand that these are pronouns. These are not standalone pronouns in the sense that you're going to see them standing alone. They're always going to be, I don't like to use the word attached, but they are attached to the verb in the sentence. Like I said, these pronouns aren't going to be standing alone. They will be, in a sense, attached to the verb. I don't like to use the word attached because in the book, for teaching purposes, you're going to see the hyphen used to show placement of the pronoun in relationship to the verb. But in Choctaw writing, we do not use hyphens. But as for teaching purposes, the book uses hyphens to show you relationship. And I had suggested making a chart. We're going to make charts. Hopefully when you put these together, because we have other person markers that we're going to be looking at, other pronouns. The book doesn't call them pronouns. The writer of the book chooses to call these person markers. And to understand person markers, we have to understand the writer. We have to understand in the terms, and this relates to what we know of English as well. First person is the speaker. First person is the speaker, and this is how I want you to understand the definitions of the when this book uses person markers as pronouns. Second person is the one spoken to. Second person is the one spoken to. And third person is the one spoken of. First person is the speaker. Second person is the one spoken to. And third person is the one spoken of. I want you to also understand that in the English, the word you does not change form, whether it's singular or plural. It's understood through context. If the speaker is speaking to you, the individual, or you, the group. Okay, so I've put this as a something that you can follow. First person, the individual is I, or the singular is I. Singular is I. Plural is we. Second person, the one spoken to. You in the singular, you all, or all of you in the plural. And notice that, as I said before, the second person is not going to change form from singular to plural in English. It does not change form. And we see that happening to the point where it can cause a bit of confusion when we learn other pronouns, because you does not change. If it's a subject, if it's an object, it still doesn't change. And if it's a direct object or an indirect object, it's not going to change form. It's not going to change form if it's the subject of a predicate adjective or if it's the subject of an active verb. So all of those need to be taken into consideration. And we'll take a look at those when we start learning more pronouns. Third person, the one spoken of. In the singular is he, she, or it, and the plural form is they. And hopefully this will help you establish this understanding. So when we start looking at the different, the difference between the singular and the plural, it won't be that difficult for you to understand which to use and when to use it. And third person, the one spoken of is he, she, or it. And when we look at our Choctaw pronouns or Choctaw agent person, do you have any questions on this part? Okay, I'm going to clear the screen and we're going to set up our agent person marker chart. Instead of doing that, let me see if I can pull this. Okay, here we go. In the singular, the subject pronoun or agent person markers, first person is le. These are the singular forms, le. And the hyphen in front of the L is going to show you that this is going to follow the verb. I said the hyphens are going to show placement of the pronoun in relationship to the verb. Le will follow the verb. Le means I. Second person is ish. Notice the hyphen following ish is going to come before the verb. Ish will come before the verb. Ish means you in the singular. Third person, again, is unmarked. We don't have a marker for third person, he, she, or it. We don't have a marker for third person. And we've already gone over this one. The person speaking, the person spoken to, the person spoken of. This is why the writer of the book chooses to call these person markers. Okay, that's all I have on that slide. I thought I had them all, but let me check. Oh. Let me see if I have. Oh, apparently I didn't make a plural form. So I'm going to write this onto the screen, the plural forms. Okay, go ahead and copy this down. We haven't had the lessons over these yet, but I wanted you to be able to see these. There are two forms of the, I guess I better put an L on plural. There are two forms of the first person plural. We have il and e, and the book explains this, and we'll go over this in a few minutes. And then we have ilo and iho. They both mean we. All four of them mean we. The second person is hush. Hush meaning you. The understanding is you all, or all of you. Here in southern Oklahoma, we say y'all. Third person plural is also unmarked if it's singular or about whom the speaker is speaking. They. Unmarked third person is they. Okay, now let's go back to page 39 where we're talking about agreement markers and pronouns. This will help understand the chart a little better. We have learned to use noun phrases as subjects of the sentence, as in, and it gives you an example about noun phrases as subjects in the sentence. And then we also want to go to the next page. Many times we have subjects that are not full noun phrases. In English, we use a special set of pronouns to mark or indicate that they are subjects. These pronouns have distinct forms that are marked for person and number, and in third person singular also indicate the sex of the person referred to. And it gives you the list of pronouns: I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. There are about English pronouns to keep in mind when comparing them to the Choctaw system. English pronouns are freestanding, and they always indicate their grammatical role. English nominative pronouns indicate that they are subjects. In the examples below, note that the pronoun always indicates the subject of the sentence. Choctaw does not generally employ freestanding pronouns as English does. We do have some, but this is not something that we're going to be studying just yet. Choctaw does not generally employ freestanding pronouns as English does. Instead, Choctaw uses agreement markers, and again, agreement markers is a term used by the writer. Choctaw uses agreement markers to indicate persons and things when a full noun phrase isn't used. Agreement markers are not freestanding, but must appear in a particular verb stem. The first of agreement markers is the agent set. Moving on down, it says subjects that are also agents. Choctaw agent markers carry information in addition to their grammatical role. Indicate subjects that are also agents. Agents, they're called agents because they're going to be doing the action of the verb. This means that the person or thing indicated by markers is doing something or affecting something else. Some examples of verbs that have agent subjects in both Choctaw and English are isso, hit, apa, eat, pisa, look at, balili, run. And we call the verbs because they differ a little bit in the sense that in English, an active verb may not have the same understanding that the action words that most verbs in Choctaw are going to show a type of physical action. Some active verbs in English may not all, but this is a better understanding of the difference between Choctaw and English verbs. We call these action words. And the example, I hit I as an agent, you are eating, you is an agent. We looked at a new car, we is an agent. And I don't like to use the last example. If I were going to, then we're not looking at a pronoun. We're looking at a possessive pronoun in English, but that's not to be studied yet. So I don't use this sentence as an example for the agent pronouns. Not all subjects are agents, as will be seen in a later chapter. For convenience, Choctaw verbs that have agent subjects are called Group 1 verbs, and these action words. Reading on page 41, the subject or agent markers go directly in front of the verb stem, except for li, which always goes at the end of the verb stem, but before the tense markers. At the end of the verb stem, before tense markers. The only tense marker we have learned is took. Okay, I'm going to skip down to the paragraph at the bottom of the page. Il or e, we, changes form depending on whether the verb following it begins with a vowel or with a consonant. When the verb begins with a consonant, we use e and iho. When the verb begins with a consonant, we use e and iho. When the verb begins with a vowel, we use il and ilo. And I don't call that changing form. I just say you're going to choose one or the other to use. You don't take e and say it's going to change form to il because of this and this. Just you're going to pick one to use. You will know which one to use. You're not going to pick one and then change the form. You will just choose one. And all of this is just information. So I want to go on to the following page, which is going to tell us about the inclusive and exclusive I was talking about. Choctaw, like many Native American languages, makes a distinction between we, that includes everyone in the group, and this is iho and ilo, or we, that is restricted to the speaker and some portion of the group, and this is going to be e and il. You might think of this as the longer form for a larger group and the shorter form for a smaller group. Another way of understanding this is that the exclusive is the first one that we use. The exclusive is going to be the speaker and a part of the group. So I could say today we are in class. This is the exclusive we. Today we are in class. This means Diana, Aaron, Laura, Margaret, Richard, Tawana, and I. This is the we that are in class today. But if I'm going to use the inclusive form, that would be the we that includes all of the ones who are registered for this class. That's the inclusive. When I make these exclusive first, the speaker and part of a group, the inclusive is going to be the second form. This is going to include all of the group. All of those who are registered in the class is we. So you're going to see the two forms of the plural pronouns when we move on into the other chapters where we're going to learn other pronouns, other person markers. And I hope this helps you to understand, to help you get an understanding. The inclusive, I think the book sometimes called it we all. If it doesn't, then I choose to use that just to give us an idea of how we're going to use these forms. It's showing you how the construction of the sentence will be using these person markers. In the bold rectangular space, it says subject marker. It says subject marker, but it's talking about the subject pronoun. The way the book tells you these things, it's not consistent. So you kind of have to figure out where it is and what it's talking about. Here it's talking about subject marker. At another point, it calls them agent person, agent subject markers, agent or subject agent markers. And here it's just going to call it a subject marker. Well, we've learned subject marker into 3 as ut, yut, hut. So this is not the same subject marker, okay? This is talking about that agent marker or agent pronoun. And you'll hear me call them agent pronouns or subject pronouns. They're all the same thing. The subject marker first, followed by the verb and the tense marker, if you have a tense marker. In this example, it says ish balili tuk. Ish balili tuk. And we're going to also be looking at different ways of translating that past tense, because sometimes we may have to use a helping word instead of using the past tense form as we understand it. For instance, balili tuk could mean did run. Remember how we learned how to use that helping word when we were making sentences. Did run, or we can translate it as ran. It depends on how it's going to be used to give us that understanding. But it's still going to be the past tense. But how we translate it in the English is where the difference is going to be, whether we use a helping word or we do not. Did run, balili tuk. Ran also is balili tuk. The first example you see is hatak an ish pisa. Hatak an ish pisa. Notice ish is going to be written before the verb pisa. The hyphen is showing you where to place that marker. Example B is a question. Ish hithahu. Ish hithahu. Notice that the question marker is going to follow the verb again, but ish is going to come before the verb hitha. Example of where le is going to be placed. Ish dishko hoyole. Ish dishko hoyole. Example D shows use of past tense marker with an question marker, and also using a direct object and the agent pronoun. The agent pronoun is the plural form of you. Allah tik an hash apila tokon. Allah tik an hash apila tokon. Okay, let me stop here for just a moment. Now look at example A, and in example A, I said that ish is going to be before the verb pisa. So where does that put hatak? Hatak is going to begin the sentence. In the chapter that we learn how to structure basic sentences, we said subject, object, and verb. Well, in the case of pronouns, when we're using these agent pronouns, subject pronouns, those pronouns are going to be where the verb is, either before it or after it. So that puts the direct object beginning your sentences. If there is a direct object, you wouldn't mark hatak as the subject of the sentence because a noun, because we know that ish is the subject. So we can't mark anything else as the subject of the sentence. The same thing happens in example D. Alatik is the direct object. Hush, the pronoun, comes before the verb, and that causes the direct object to begin your sentence. Example E. Pilashash, Anumpa, Ikhʋnapisa. Pilashash, Anumpa, Ikhʋnapisa. You have Pilashash, which is a time marker. Anumpa, a noun. But the subject is further into this sentence. Ikhʋnapisa. Ikhʋnapisa. We bought. Always look for the verb. What is before the verb that's going to indicate that it's a pronoun, the subject pronoun? Or is there a subject? Is there a noun that is the subject of the sentence? That subject will have a subject marker. That noun will have a subject marker if it's the subject of the sentence. Nouns, we have no need for the subject markers for the nouns because the subjects are going to be the pronouns. Sometimes in translations, you might find the time marker comes at the end of the sentence in English. Yesterday we bought a table, or we bought a table yesterday. And that's going to be up to the decision of how you choose to write it. Could be yesterday we bought a table, or we bought a table yesterday. F says bisa huyo. This is an example of the unmarked third person. You don't see a marker anywhere that's going to tell you what the subject of the sentence is. Bisa is a noun, but it's not the subject because we see the word huyo. If bisa were the subject, what would bisa be looking for? So we know it's not the subject of the sentence. This is where we learn to rely on that third person. You can see bisa and huyo. You know that someone is looking for bisa because bisa is not the subject. It has no subject marker following it to show you that this noun is the subject. Bisa huyo is going to tell you that someone else is looking for berries. Who is looking for berries? He is looking for berries. She is looking for berries. They are looking for berries. Do you have any questions? Okay, question says, can you mention the use of the nasal A in examples A and D? Okay, you will find that information on page 20. You'll find that information on page 20. The object marker A, nasal A, is on page 20. Okay, once again, question says, when writing Choctaw, do we not use the hyphen? No, ma'am, we don't use the hyphen. We don't use any markings like the English do. We don't use the hyphen. This is only for teaching purposes. We do not use a hyphen to write the Choctaw. We don't use apostrophes. Don't use hyphens. Okay, if there's nothing else, if you'll mark your page 42 for the example, we'll begin there when we come back on Monday. We will have class Monday. I know it's federal holiday, but we will have class. A lot of our schools are open, so we will have class. Okay, question says, so if don't use hyphen with the, no, it's not. And again, you'll see my writing is going to be different from what the writer of the book chooses to do. And the writer of the book was not a speaker. So a lot of her writings are not as I would write it, or nor as Byington has written it. So don't get so stuck in the book that you don't see that there is more to the language than what's in the book. And like I said, the writer of the book was not a speaker. She chooses to write things her way. But we try to simplify things for our learners. We try to make it where anyone can learn our language and not rely on just what the book tells us. I use the book only as a guide. I don't always agree with the spellings or the writings in the book. Okay, again, we will have class Monday, so I will see you guys on Monday. It's been so much key.